Welcome, everyone. As you settle in, please, just waiting for the question to come up on the screen. I would like to request you all to scan the QR code and try to answer the question on the screen. It's a warm-up question to our exciting session coming ahead, and we'll start in a few minutes. Please be reminded that this is a silent session, and I ask you to use your earpieces to follow the session. People from 20 studios are here to assist you in case you're having any difficulties. And let's see the question on the screen. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to just put in your answers to that question. As you do that, I would like to... Yes, sorry. Let me give you more time for you to just put in your answers to that. Try not to Google, please. Excellent. So my name is Frederick Nyambare. I work for SATO as a leader for Africa Partnerships, and I will be your host for the sessions today. The session consists of two parts. We are going to have presentations, and then we have a panel discussion, which I will brief you shortly. And we have the results on the screen. That's the answer then. So it's 36.5% with the basic sanitation 5% and safely managed sanitation 31.5%. As you can see, there's a lot of progress that has been made, but there's still a lot more that we can do. And today we will be sharing experiences from Kitui County, Kenya, where LIXIL, SATO, UNICEF, and more importantly, the County Government of Kitui have actually collaborated to address challenges in sanitation in a water scarce setting. We will see how this experience has led to the largest market-based sanitation project in the world and has reached over 7 million people in 6 countries, along with other experiences in public-private partnerships globally. Speaking of PPPs, there's a second warm-up question on the screen as well, which coming up shortly. But before then, if you had to pick one of those elements on the screen, which of these do you most associate with public-private partnerships? Just to mention, for those of you who may be having problems scanning the QR code, you can join slido.com and put in the number to participate in the poll. Good. So as we begin, I would like to introduce Erin McCusker. Erin is SATO's leader and Senior Vice President at LIXIL, who will come to give our opening remarks and also introduce Nancy Eschlick from USAID. Thank you so much. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you, Frederick. Very happy to be here and very happy. That is very weird to hear your own voice in your ears. Apologies. All right. Well, while this poll is going, you guys weren't so great on the last one, so this will be interesting. There's no right or wrong answers on this one, but we're gonna let that flow. We've got online participants and there's a bit of a lag, so I'm very pleased to be here. As Frederick said, I'm Erin McCusker. I'm the Senior Vice President with LIXIL and very proud to be the leader of our SATO business. Many of you know SATO. I assume this is one of the big draws of coming into this session, but SATO is a brand of LIXIL. We're a social business that focuses on innovative, aspirational, and affordable sanitation and hygiene solutions. And what this enables us to do is offer a suite of products that are not only convenient and are able to meet the needs of consumers who otherwise may not have viable solutions, but it also allows us to create an experience for these consumers that results in lasting behavior change to use these toilets. It's an important part we've been hearing across all these sessions for sustainable and lasting change and impact. As was mentioned earlier, SATO has reached 45 million people in 45 countries. It's a big dent in LIXIL's ambitious goal to reach 100 million people by 2025. Today is going to be a really interesting discussion. I think many of you saw the bingo card that was circulating, and if any takeaway you can take from this is we are always talking about the same things with the same people. And so I'm really excited today for us to show a case study of what has really worked in one particular area in Kitui County in Kenya, but also to feature some of our longtime partners and one of our new partners and share what we're learning in the hopes that maybe you can see something that you can take back and implement in your own markets and programs. This is what will start to catalyze change and will make sure that the conversations we're having next year are different and showing progress. So we are going to hear not only from Kitui County government and our partners, but we're also going to talk about how do we bring the public sector and the role of government into innovation, into the behavior change, into the implementation of these programs, and why that public-private connection and the role and support of the government is critical to that success. I know the discussion will be rich. We hope for your continued engagement as you've done on the poll. And I am incredibly pleased to see that 50% of you have said that they are necessary. And we could not agree more. SATO's impact that we have had would not have been possible without our public-private partnerships and our partners who are implementing on the ground, many of you who are here today. And we see this necessity means that we need to prioritize these conversations with these critical partners. In terms of complexity, you know, good things are worth fighting for and powering through, but we couldn't agree more. And what's essential in complex situations is establishing trust. And I hope that when you hear each of our partners speaking, you can see that that investment in the time up front to understand the complexities, design roles, and have open communication and trust is what made it impactful and made it effective. So I'm really looking forward to the discussion. I'm also very pleased to be able to introduce USAID's new Global Water Coordinator, Nancy Elsick, to come and give her own opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Eslick. I'm USAID's new Global Water Coordinator, and I have to say today's session is really one of the highlights of the week for me in getting to know Erin, Frederick, the team at LIXIL, and really understanding the impact that our partnership is having on the ground. I also really want to thank Faith and Anne and Eva for putting together a great case study today on Kitui County. I know that we're all collectively going to learn a lot from that. It's an excellent example of leveraging partnership among donors and development partners to accelerate sanitation at the local level. UNICEF is a long-standing partner of USAID in Kenya and globally for USAID's investment in water security and sanitation. USAID is advancing efforts that complement those that we're going to hear about in Kitui County, in addition to other counties in Western Kenya. There, we collectively are working with diverse stakeholders, such as water and sanitation utilities, pit emptiers, emerging sanitation and hygiene enterprises, to remove barriers to achieve scale and profitability. This includes developing, testing, and applying county-wide market-driven approaches to build from the ground up or to strengthen burgeoning markets for sanitation and hygiene products and services. Under our U.S. Global Water Strategy, the United States has committed to elevating sanitation. In fact, for the first time ever, our sanitation targets are equal to our drinking water targets, conveying our increased commitment to solving the global sanitation problem. We seek to reach 22 million people with access to sanitation by 2027. And a critical way we're going to achieve these results are through market systems. Markets and private enterprises are one of the incredibly powerful forces for lifting lives, strengthening communities, and accelerating global development. In 2021, USAID and LIXIL launched the Partnership for Better Living, or PBL, which is a public-private effort to create sustainable sanitation hygiene for more than 2 million people in at least 11 counties, in 11 countries by 2026. PBL seeks to accelerate market entry of LIXIL's low-cost SATO toilets and hygiene products into new countries with a high degree of sanitation needs, but also by challenging the business environment. And we're doing this by reducing supply chain barriers, promoting innovation, and growing local sanitation markets. Our first activity with LIXIL under the Partnership for Better Living will be in Madagascar, working in collaboration with our bilateral water and sanitation programs there, in addition to country engagements in other locations that will be announced this fall. In Madagascar, we'll work together to eliminate supply and chain and bottlenecks to enhance availability and affordability of sanitation products locally. We're excited to leverage existing local partnerships, including a conglomerate called Invisio Group, and build its capacity to market SATO. Between now and 2026, and improve sanitation access for more than 100,000 people. Invisio will be able to import products at reduced costs that they then can be sold at a comparable rate in country. The capacity and partnership with LIXIL will continue even after the investment with USAID. And we hope that additional demand for improved sanitation services is met through Invisio and others who enter the market as they see greater returns in the sanitation space. Progress will be driven by meeting the needs and aspirations of households with appropriate, accessible, and affordable sanitation products and solutions that fit into budgets and the context that is locally applicable. We also need to ensure that marginalized communities gain access to benefits of basic sanitation and safe water. In many cases, reaching these communities through inclusive sanitation makes the most sense. In other instances, the hardest to reach communities could benefit from more targeted subsidies. Either approach will need strong cooperation between governments, businesses, and other stakeholders in order to be sustainable. That's why public-private partnerships, like I know 50% of you in the room here already know, and we hope by the end of the session 100% know, are so vital to accelerating progress worldwide. We invite other development partners, governments, businesses to join the effort to make progress towards development goals through public-private partnerships and really the collaboration that it takes to create sustainability. So again, thank you to Erin and her team for inviting me here today to talk about our partnership with LIXIL. It really is a highlight of my week here at World Water Week, and I really look forward to hearing the presentation about Kitui County, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Erin, for the opening remarks, and thank you so much to Ms. Nancy as well. We are very proud about our partnership for better living with USAID. It's changed a lot of what the work we do and contributes towards our efforts to reach 100 million people by 2025. As we begin the session, we'll now learn more about this case study in Kitui County. That will be followed then by a panel discussion moderated by my colleague Jason Cardosi, and we'll hope to have time for questions and discussion at the end. And to kick off this session, let me begin by introducing our valuable presenters today. First up is Ms. Faith Kanini Mutinda, who is Director of Public Health in Kitui County. Welcome. And then after Faith, we'll have presentation from Ms. Eva Mwangi, our colleague. She's the SATO Leader for Marketing and Communications in Africa. who will share with us more about our social business and the role we play in this partnership. And lastly, I'm sure most of you have heard about our important partnership called Make a Splash with UNICEF. So we are very lucky to have Ms. Ann Thomas with us today. She's the Senior WASH Advisor at UNICEF. Thank you so much for taking time to join us. We will be taking clarifying questions in the room at the end of the presentations. And for the many listening online, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will try and answer them. For those who are present physically here at SIWI this week, we also have a booth number 416 for any further discussions in case we run out of time today. Ms. Faith, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Faith Mutinda. I'm Deputy Director of Public Health in Kitui County, which is in Kenya. Thank you.
Presentation? Yes.
So I'll be taking you through.
The sound is on, eh?
Now we can proceed with the proceedings of my presentation, and the objective of my presentation today is about Kitui County journey to open defecation free and post-ODF activities since 2016, because that is when we started our post-ODF activities after one of the sub-counties was declared open defecation free in 2014. Then we have the Kitui County Health Bill and also challenges in introducing SATO products and how the challenges were overcome. So our objective is to explore collaboration with diverse partners in Kitui County, Kenya, such as UNICEF and LIXIL, that led to sanitation innovation and a global partnership in improving the lives of millions of people through innovative and affordable sanitation solutions. And next is the map of Kitui County. I'll just talk briefly about Kitui County. Kitui County is one of the 47 counties that are found in Kenya, and it is in the lower eastern part of, region of the country. Our county is divided into 8 sub-counties and 40 wards, and also 247 devolved villages. And our county is very vast, covering an area of over 30,000 square kilometers, and approximately 4,930 smaller villages, we call them villages. And the population, okay, the households are 205,491. Then the population is 1,136,187, with a growth rate of 2.1% as per 2019 census. And our county is characterized by vast geographical area and relatively high population with spread out and sparse distributed settlement patterns. So now we can go to how did we get to ODF, the journey to ODF. And Kitui County embraced and adopted community-led total sanitation strategy in 2010 to ensure improved standards of sanitation in both urban and rural Kitui. And we launched our Open Defecation Free campaign in July 2014, 1 year and 3 months after establishment of county governments with the principle of aiming at attaining ODF status in the county. And the county was declared open defecation free on 15th October 2018 with 4,930 vijijis being certified open defecation free. And when we're talking about community-led total sanitation, this is an integrated approach to achieving sustainable open defecation free status. And the CLTS approach entails facilitation of communities' analysis of their sanitation profile, their practice of defecation, and the consequences leading to collective action to become ODF. CLTS focuses on igniting change in sanitation behavior rather than the constructing of toilets, and it also concentrates on the whole community rather than an individual behavior. So when we are talking about CLTS, or community-led total sanitation, we are talking about the general population, not focusing on individual. So CLTS involves no individual household hardware subsidy and then does not prescribe latrine models. So when we are doing community-led total sanitation, we are not prescribing any type of sanitation model, but we are talking about simple latrine, and now we are upscaling to improving the sanitation standards by climbing the sanitation ladder. A community or household could start with simple facilities and progressively climb the sanitation ladder to improve the facilities.
Yes.
Now, this graph shows our progress for our journey to ODF, meaning that all the villages have gone through the first column is about the total villages, the small villages, that is kijijis, and then all of them were triggered, they claimed ODF, and they were verified and later certified. So what is our guiding principle towards attaining ODF? We have Article 43 of our Constitution that guarantees the right of every person to access and adequate housing and to reasonable standards of sanitation. That is the Kenyan Constitution of 2010. And we also have the shift by shifting the bias of the National Health Bill from curative to preventive care. Then the 2030 vision for water and sanitation, which is to ensure that improved water sanitation is available and accessible to all. We have target number 7, which was among the 2015 Millennium Development Goals, which were not achieved, and now at least we can say we are somewhere. Now we are focusing on sustainable development goals. Goal number 6 of ensuring availability of sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And more specifically, we are looking at part 2 of goal number 6, that by 2030, to achieve access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all and end open defecation, paying special attention to the needs of women and girls and those in vulnerable situations. I hope you've seen a video whereby we have been reaching out to vulnerable people with disability. Then we're also looking at goal number 10 to reduce inequality within and among countries. In Kitui County, for us to get to open defecation free, it was not really a very soft journey. We had handles, but we came up with a program. We baptized Pamoja Tujikinge integrated program, and this was aiming at bringing in some community health workers. Now we are calling them community health promoters, who are supposed to serve 205, the number of households that I talked about. And the community health promoters and the village elders were organized in groups of 15 and trained on and mentored on group dynamics in income generating activities, entrepreneurship, health and community-based approaches plus civic education. Our community health promoters have been on a stipend. The county government has been giving a stipend of 2,000. Actually, it has been 3,000 Kenya shillings, but 1,000 goes to their income-generating activities so that they can do something for themselves since they were volunteers at that time. In 1 year, each group was given their saving to initiate income-generating activities, and most groups were encouraged to initiate sanitation businesses, including of SATO products. We have some CHP groups that have really done very well in coming up with the businesses and one-stop shops, which are really helping the communities to reach to sanitation products. I'll briefly talk about our Kitui County Health Bill. And this is an act of the County Assembly of Kitui to provide for the promotion of healthcare services and management of county health facilities to contribute to the realization of the highest standards of health as provided earlier in Article 43 of our Constitution. And in that bill, we have Part 6 of it, which talks about community health services, because sanitation is actually happening at the community level. And this one provides for establishment of community health units, and it outlines the formation and the roles of CHC, that is community health committees, vacation of office and the procedures for meetings. It defines community health promoters and the procedure of appointment and their supervision and roles and responsibilities. And also engagement of community health promoters who will be on monthly stipend and paid by the county government, so that they can move our post-ODF activities agenda forward. What were the issues in 2016? I said in 2014, our first district or sub-county was declared open defecation free, and from there we embarked on post-ODF activities which are anchored in 3 pillars, that is skills upgrading, strengthening of community social norms, and sanitation marketing. And what have we achieved from that? If you look at this graph, that is the impact of the reduction of diarrheal diseases by over 67%. I would like to say that before we started the CLTS process, Kitui County was experiencing cholera outbreaks, and since 2018, when we were declared ODF, we have never experienced a cholera outbreak in our county. So that is one of the impact that we have made. Then we have also reduced the stunting rates from 47 to 25%, and more than 25,000 households with improved sanitation. We face some challenges. One of them is low supply of SATO products, and also, of course, we have mitigation measures. LIXIL against local manufacturers of SATO products. And then we have long distances to suppliers and also low number of artisans in SATO retrofitting. I think that is that. And thank you. I think I've kept my time. Thank you so much for listening. That is the story of Kitui.
Thank you so much, Ms. Faith Karini. One thing she failed to mention is that since they started ODF, one of the things Kitui County has achieved is also an increase in investment in sanitation as well. So thank you so much. Yeah. We cannot achieve any of the results without a committed county government like Kitui County. So we hope that your success story translates to other counties as well, and we will continue working to support the people of Kitui County. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening.
Without wasting time, let's welcome Ms. Eva Mwangi, Leader for Marketing and Communications, SATO Africa. Welcome.
Thanks, Fred. As you've heard, my name is Eva Mwangi. I'm the Marketing Leader for SATO in Africa. And in my presentation today, I will walk you through who we are as SATO, our product portfolio, and our global partnership with UNICEF. All right, so SATO is a social business under LIXIL Corporation, and our purpose is to empower people everywhere to live a better life and enjoy a brighter future through our many innovative and affordable sanitation and hygiene solutions. Our purpose is anchored on LIXIL's goal to improve the lives of 100 million people by the year 2025. And for those of you who might not be familiar with LIXIL, LIXIL is a maker of pioneering water and housing products that aims to make better homes a reality for everyone. So far, we've been able to reach 45 countries, and we've done this by shipping out 6.5 million units of SATO across the globe. And with this, we've been able to reach 45 million people. This means 45 million people across the globe have access to improved sanitation and hygiene solutions through SATO. And we've been able to achieve this by having operations in 10 countries. And we're very proud to have collected a number of awards and accolades along the way. All right, I'll move on to our product portfolio. And at the very top, we'll start with our toilet solutions. We have the SATO Pan, which is our flagship unit. Right next to it, we have the SATO Flex Pan, which is a slight improvement from the pan that features a footrest. And then we have the SATO Stool, which is my personal favorite and caters to a unique group of people in the community. We're talking about the elderly, physically challenged, expectant moms, and small children. Then we have the SATO Tap, our award-winning hand hygiene solution, and this one was developed as an emergency response during the pandemic. So I'll just head over to the I-Trap and the V-Trap. These are our connection solutions that serve offset pit systems. And then very recently, we launched the SATO Slab, which is our above-ground solutions, and it comes in 2 stock-keeping units, one that fits with the SATO Pan and the other one with the stool. I think it's very important for me to just mention that our innovations and our products are designed with water saving in mind. And for example, the toilet solutions are designed to use less than a liter to flush, which means we are saving 80% in comparison to the conventional toilets. We can also flush our toilets with gray water, which obviously encourages recycling of the same. All right, I will walk you through the milestones that we've had with UNICEF and Kitui through our Make a Splash campaign. And this started way back in 2015. And it started with, just as Faith explained, yeah? It started with the Kitui County Public Health Office when, they started working towards making Kitui County open defecation free. And they did this by partnering with UNICEF and the community health promoters to sensitize communities on importance of improved sanitation. Come 2016, SATO joined UNICEF and Kitui County to carry out trials, and we did this by selling SATO units to pre-selected households within a specific community. The households were also issued with questionnaires to collect feedback. With the feedback from the trials, we were able to work on and improve on the SATO design into the new SATO Pan that we now know today and have come to love. With this, we moved into production through local manufacturing. We did this with our licensee manufacturing partner in Kenya called SIL Africa. In 2017, the sanitation scale-up continued not only in Kitui, but throughout the country. And then in 2018, owing to the success of the trials, UNICEF and LIXIL began discussions of formalizing the partnership. And come 2019, Make a Splash was born. Make a Splash is a shared value partnership between LIXIL and UNICEF and was launched in 3 countries, namely Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. In 2020, at the height of the pandemic, we developed the SATO Tap, and we wouldn't have been able to do this without the support of UNICEF. UNICEF was able to provide us with crucial data points and market intel that informed the concept of the design. With a winning concept at hand, we were able to produce a prototype, test it in East Africa and South Asia, and eventually mass produce and distribute it across the globe. In 2021, Make a Splash was able to hit a milestone of reaching 2.9 million people, and with this success, we expanded into 3 more markets: India, Indonesia, and Nigeria. in 2022, we hit another new milestone of an additional 5.6 million people. I think with this, we can see that from the trials in Kitui, the partnership has been able to reach and expand into the country, across different countries in Africa, expanded all the way into Asia, and we've also spilled over into what we call leverage markets, in the neighboring countries. So very recently, we went back to Kitui and talked to a few households that were part of the trials, and this is what they had to say.
Before, there were so many flies due to the smell from the toilet. And when that SATO ban had been put, the flies disappeared. I had to see the bottom through the big hole. Now, it has been covered and it remained a very small entrance of the product. I cannot see the bottom. And it is easy to clean. That because there is no smell, there is no flies.
Action ambayo tunafanya hapa ya kuinstall SATO stool kwa mmojawapo wa wale watu wa vijiji ambao wanafanya kazi imekuwa successful, imefaulu vizuri sana kwa sababu tumeweza kuinstall na tumeweza kuhamasisha na kuwafunza mambo kuhusu na usafi.
Tangu tuanze kuuza hizi SATO pan, SATO flex, SATO stool, watu wamependezwa nazo, wamenunua kwa wingi. Tukiwahimiza kama sisi PHVs tumenunua na tumeinstall, tumejua umuhimu wa hizo na tunawaelimisha na wanapendezwa na kuzinunua.
So far, we have reached over 23,000 households have installed SATOs. We have also installed SATO taps, and we have seen a drastic reduction of diarrheal diseases. And the communities are also appreciating that they are not experiencing any smell. Of all that.
One of my special roles to reach to these disabled in the community. Nimeonelea ni vizuri sana kutembelea huyu leo ndio hawe kielelezo kwa wengine. Pia nao wako na haki na ni sehemu ya community zetu.
Njengea choo, jipana yangu alikuwa anasumbuka sana.
May I tell you this? Even if shillings, not even 5,000, 10,000, telling me to go back to the hot toilet, I cannot go back.
Such an inspiring story. Well, I know all of you agree with me how amazing it is to see how this partnership has not only resulted in improved sanitation across different markets, but also the economic growth that has developed through sanitation entrepreneurship by the community health promoters. At this point, I'd like to invite you all to join us on this journey of reaching 100 million people by 2025. And you can do this by visiting our website, by scanning the QR code in front of you. You can also subscribe to our newsletter that we publish and release regularly. And you can also visit our booth and connect with us and learn more about how we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eva. Our presenters are really keeping up to the time allocated. Eva is very passionate, and we are privileged to have her as a driving force in our marketing and communication activities in Africa, including all the great work she does with the UNICEF teams in Kitui County and Kenya as well, and also supporting other African countries. Next, I just want to reiterate how crucial Miss Ann Thomas has been in our partnership, in our Make a Splash partnership, supporting the Africa team, not only in Kitui, but also in our Make a Splash countries. And even beyond the Make a Splash partnership, she's been very supportive in reaching out to the UNICEF county offices in our expansion markets. Welcome, Miss Ann.
Thanks so much, Frederick, and it's great to be here to talk a little bit about the beginnings of this partnership, which I was a part of actually in Kitui, but also how it's evolved over time. And so the way I was thinking to tell the story a little bit today was, one, just to talk about the context under which this partnership started, because I think that was really important in sort of defining how this partnership evolved. Second, I wanted to talk a little bit about shared value. This is what we call a shared value partnership at UNICEF, and it's the only shared value partnership that we have, and I can go into detail on why that is. And the last two things is what we've learned, and then how this partnership is now evolving to meet new challenges that we're finding in the sector. And let me say, it is actually one of my favorite parts of my job is working on this partnership, because it's been a very creative partnership and it's constantly changing. So it's been also a lot of fun, this journey with SATO. So first, the context. I was, at the time, the regional sanitation specialist for UNICEF in Eastern Africa. I covered 21 countries, and we were in the midst of a big CLTS expansion, what we were calling CATS rollout across the continent. We were also looking at how do we move communities from open defecation all the way up to basic at that time. What we were finding, as you can see in this little graphic here, these are 2015 figures, but basically what we're seeing across a lot of countries in East Africa is that there was over 50% of the population that were either practicing open defecation or moving to unimproved latrines. And so we were really concerned about this huge part of the population using unsafe sanitation. So not only were we able to look at, how do we shift behaviors, we wanted to really look at how we got people onto more safe sanitation technology and services over the long term. At this time, we were also thinking a lot about last mile challenges. For those of you working in sanitation marketing, you know what I'm talking about. It's the challenge of reaching communities that are remote, that are sparsely populated. How do you, the kind of products that we were looking for at the time needed to be lightweight so that they could be easily transported. They needed to be affordable to communities, and they needed to be accessible. We needed to figure out the supply chains to get them out into these communities. So, it was a huge challenge. There was very little private sector engagement. At this point in time, we had commissioned a regional market study just to look at, who were the private sector partners out there, what products were available on the market, and how difficult was it for rural communities to access some of the basic ingredients of a toilet. So cement, iron. We looked at this, and also how easy or difficult was it to transport products across boundaries. And so basically it was a very dismal study where we found there was hardly anybody in the market, hardly any products. It was very difficult for countries to transport goods across boundaries due to either customs or poor infrastructure. So it wasn't looking very good in the sector. And I was very frustrated with current efforts because they were really targeting sort of NGO development of new products that were really expensive, were often not meeting what we needed in the sector, and they took a long time to evolve and test. And so, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with what was going on. So the big challenges that we had were, how do we stimulate rural sanitation markets? How do we share that financial risk in developing new markets? Because this, it's not only an investment in terms of finding new products, but it's also establishing new markets, which takes time. And then demonstrating profitability. What we really wanted was to show that sanitation could be profitable and thereby have copycat businesses. So when we met with SATO, they were in the process of evolving products for Bangladesh and Asia, and I had offered to work together to look at whether these products could be used in East Africa. And really the trade-off was, we wanted to leverage our rural positioning and knowledge of what was going on and the demand for sanitation in rural areas with SATO's R&D capacity. They were, it was very funny because we talked a little bit about what was needed, and I don't know how long it took Daigo to come up with a 3D printed toilet, but it wasn't very long, and it didn't cost anything. And we were able to go out into the field and have a very quick look at what was going on. And doing that with some of the organizations that we had been working with, was costing UNICEF a lot of money with very little success. So there was a real value here in partnering together. The interest was, could we show profitability through these products? So basically, over 2016 to 2018, we developed this partnership where we worked together. There was no funding exchange. This was just purely collaboration, looking at how we could help SATO place their products in a few communities, see what the uptake was. We visited the field together. We helped them identify locations, and to be honest, the feedback from communities was very much like what you're hearing now. People were really interested. People were calling it the toilet of the future, the sci-fi toilet, you name it. People were really excited about this new technology, and high-tech toilet was, I believe, one thing people called it. And it was just because of that flap in the color. But it was interesting at that time, the sort of difference in responsiveness from communities from what we were seeing previously. So we field trial in a few countries. We helped a little bit looking at local manufacturers who could help with the plastic manufacturing of the product. We were also helping looking at how we could place SATO within the context of the community health workers and CLTS programs. We also started understanding at that time that there's a need for households to have access to some kind of financing to upgrade and retrofit their toilets. And so this collaboration allowed us to start thinking a little bit about that. So phase one of the really formal partnership with LIXIL started in 2019. And we started looking at these 3 countries, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya. We had broad areas of focus around building demand, linking innovative product components to sanitation systems. This was the time when we were able to evolve the SATO tap together, as Eva mentioned. During COVID, we saw a market gap. Our country offices were having trouble finding hand washing stations that could be easily transported, were cost effective. I was in Indonesia at the time, and I was having this problem with hand washing stations. So when the SATO tap idea came along, it was really well received by our countries, and it helped them sort of evolve this product. We were able to do a lot of knowledge sharing, looking at financing opportunities, and thinking about how we might strengthen the local policy environment for sanitation. From phase one, we went to phase two, which we're currently in, and it's really, this was, sorry, this is not a story about me, but it just happened to be that I came to New York around this time and took on this global remit for UNICEF and was developing what we called the Sanitation Game Plan, which was UNICEF's push towards safely managed sanitation. And the ambition was huge with the game plan to reach 1 billion people. And SATO at the same time had their strategy to reach 100 million people with sanitation and hygiene. So we were looking at how could we combine efforts. And one of the things with the game plan is looking at how we can build the supply chain for sanitation in conjunction with doing the system strengthening work that was needed to underpin. Basically, the game plan came about because we were seeing that a lot of our investments in sanitation weren't sustained, either because government wasn't putting the correct investment either in regulation or the policy or the financing, or there wasn't a strong enabling environment for market systems. So we were looking at how can we join forces to have a more robust system strengthening approach to building markets. So phase two now, we have roughly 6 countries. So we're working in markets in East Africa, but we've also added India and Indonesia. Working in Asia is very different than working in East Africa, primarily because we have a much more saturated market in Asia, and we're not working in the same way that we worked in Kitui, for example, in Asia, as we were in Kenya at the outset. So we're looking now more broadly at what can we do together to strengthen the market that can have sort of a watershed effect for the market rather than just working to push LIXIL products out in communities. So, so now the programs in these countries are really broad, and I know this is impossible to read, but it's just to reflect on the fact that we have array of different types of interventions. So just to quickly compare, in Kenya, we were working on this sort of professionalization of the community health workers, how we place these products to get out further. UNICEF helped with the One Health bill, which allowed a stipend to the health workers. We're also doing work on safely managed sanitation policy and regulation in the country. So there's a nice confluence of our upstream and work in the field. Indonesia, what we're finding is lots of service providers, lots of products, but it's completely fragmented. And looking at how can we support better, on the product line, there's a couple of areas we'd like to look at, but essentially we've been looking at business models that help aggregate services in one location online. And for those of you who know Indonesia, a lot of services are offered online through apps. And so the idea was, could we do this for the sanitation sector? We've had a lot of achievement. I don't need to go through all of them, but just to say, the achievements have not only been with SATO sales. In fact, what we've learned is that some of the achievements that we've made around the policy environment for FSM, for financial inclusion, we've had over $2.4 million distributed to households across the 6th country in terms of financial, either microloans or smart subsidies that are going to households to help them upgrade. We've done a huge amount of capacity building. Thousands of sanitation sector professionals, service providers are being trained by the program. And we're also doing a lot for global advocacy to sort of raise awareness of different options. As you all know, we're looking at non-sewered sanitation, and this is sort of the big wave now, is to look at what are the options for communities to access safely managed sanitation that are non-sewered and on-site. We have a lot of new country interest, and we're constantly trying to look at how we can bring new countries in, what the typology of support would be for those countries to help understand and learn about what works for sanitation and how to strengthen markets in different contexts. But just a quick summary of learnings to date, market strengthening for sanitation has been beyond sales. The sales are one metric, but really there are a lot of other metrics that we realize we really need to be looking at and unpacking to understand market strengthening for sanitation. Those are demand creation, the supply chain interventions that we do, the supportive policy and regulation, and the financing options. All of these are pieces of the puzzle of market strengthening. Tailored interventions. Every country is different, has a different set of factors, and so these market interventions have to be carefully considered. And often, in our case, market assessments have been a very useful tool. Technological transfer. We found that sometimes in rural communities, institutions like schools and healthcare facilities can be a really interesting place to display technology and new options, because it's a place where a lot of people come in. And so we're looking at how we can use institutions as a knowledge transfer or demonstration site. Defragmentation, it's important to consolidate products and services and financing to reduce fragmentation of the sector. Behavioral change has always been an important part of these programs, and communication campaigns are instrumental, not only in changing behaviors, but also communicating where people can find the products and knowing that they're available. Policy synergy has always been important. Developing local standards and policies in sync with market growth are supportive to ensuring that the private sector can actually thrive in these areas. Innovative financing for us in this program, I think it's a little bit of an unintended consequence, is that we've been broaching on financial inclusion for some of our community health workers, but also more broadly for service providers, because we've been looking at how to professionalize some of their bookkeeping, how to get them to access more commercial financing. And then female participation as a final point. Women's engagement in the program has helped boost leadership and our results overall. So this has been a really promising sign. On that note, I'd like to end. Thanks very much. I'm sorry, I think I went over
Thank
time.
you so much, Ms. Ann. Yeah. You can see the way our presenters are keeping up to time. And One thing I wanted to mention is that Makers Plus partnership has also enabled us open doors to more partnerships. Ms. Faith mentioned it in a presentation earlier about reducing inequality. And the FINISH MONDIAL partnership with Makers Plus actually has also enabled access to sanitation financing as well. So it's beyond just the sales of SATO, but we are grateful to the UNICEF teams, both globally and the country teams, for supporting the achievement of SDG 6 goals through this public-private partnership. So thank you so much. Before we move to the second part of the event, I would like to open the floor for 2 questions very quickly, so that let's start. How do you manage? Okay, good. Sorry. And there will be more time for discussion at the end, so please keep it short. We're also available after this session, like I mentioned earlier. You can also visit our booth after this session. 416 is the booth. And we also have a networking event tomorrow at our booth, so go ahead, please. Thanks.
Thanks. Tom Heath with Action Against Hunger. I had a question with the Kenya example. I wondered if you could speak more about the most vulnerable in terms of the transformation of them buying the toilets. What was the social norm, or how the local leaders were involved, or like that's one of the most difficult parts of the piece, and it'd be really interesting to know what motivated them and enabled them to be able to access, so you achieved ODF. Thank you.
Sorry? Who's the question to? Sorry?
That is my question. Thank you very much for that question, and
we can see you then. No, it's fine. You can.
Yes. Oops, sorry.
Thank you so much for that good question. And one thing I want to say that when we are reaching to the vulnerable, as you've seen from the screen, it's about we are having people who are living with disability, and we are advocating for them to use sanitation facilities. Like also in schools, we have schools where we have children with disabilities. Those children have not been going to school, but with the coming up of the SATO and installing in schools, they are able now to reach to schools, and they are able to use the sanitation facilities. So what happens, we sensitize the family members so that they can acquire them, and we have trained our community health promoters, many of them being ladies or women, who are doing the installation of the SATOs, and they are doing it at a subsidized price, so it is accessible. When it comes to the social norms, the communities formulate their own norms or their rules that govern their areas. If you go to our villages, you find there are some signposts that are written. This village is open defecation free, and there's a list of the smaller villages, kijijis, that when you reach that village, you are not supposed to go to the bush. So those are some of the norms that are formed by the community members. And sometimes they also come up with sanctions that when somebody is seen going to the bush, the community members are able to take action on you. So those are the norms that are formulated by the community to govern them on their sanitation behavior. Remember, I talked about collective behavior for the communities and not for individuals. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We want to move quickly so that we don't run over this time allocated for this session. But please engage us at the end of the session if you have any more questions and clarifications. But one comment as Anne sits down, as Ms. Faith sits down, is financial inclusion also targets the vulnerable in the community.
Yes.
At this juncture, let me welcome my colleague, Jason Cardosi. Jason is our global leader for partnerships and market insights to moderate the next panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. We're not getting out of here without a panel, so it's just got to do it. So sorry, Faith, can you please come back up with Erin and Anne? Thank you. Just anywhere here's fine. And we can't talk about scale without access to finance, so Pamela Kabasiguzi from FINISH MONDIAL, could you join?
Yes.
And of course, the great John Sawyer from PSI.
John, you can come stand next to me.
I would love to.
Get your own mic.
Great, thanks a lot. So given the time, I'm just going to ask everyone one question, and then we'll hopefully have time to just reopen it again before we close. But Faith,
Yes.
we can come back to you again. We've certainly found there's a lot of discussion of scale here. We can't work at scale without government.
Yes.
And we saw you had a call to action in Kitui County. You had the policies in place, which was very helpful for us.
Yes.
But how did you initially engage the private sector? How did you bring UNICEF in? How did you get all these partners in to support your goals and your strategy in Kitui when you were back in the CLTS days?
Thank you so much for that question. And I want to say that when we were declared open defecation free, we said that the embassy is not stopping at that, and we need to get into partnerships so that we can now see how best we can help our communities to climb the sanitation ladder. And that's how we were able to, through UNICEF, we were able to reach out to LIXIL, and we piloted in one of the districts that the first district to become ODF. We piloted and sensitized the communities, and the uptake was very good. So that's how we were able to partner with UNICEF and LIXIL. And also the county government, I would say that our governor is very much keen on sanitation activities, and a lot of effort has been put on preventive care by the governor, His Excellency the Governor, because now our budget has been increased from 16% to 37% going to preventive. And that is part of what we are talking about, promoting community health promoters to take the agenda forward. So we are partnering the government and our development partners in ensuring that we make our county blue. Actually, we are saying that we want to paint our county blue by 2025, meaning that we want to have 70% of households having installed the SATOs, because we are also having other sanitation solutions. So for us, we are focusing on 70% of households having turned blue. Yeah. Yes.
Great, thank you. We really appreciate that leadership. It makes what is a challenging situation a lot easier to address. So also speaking of scale, John, you're with PSI, as I think many of you know you. I think of all of our partners, you probably achieved the greatest scale in terms of access to sanitation, developing sanitation markets. So how'd you do it?
Well, we're definitely not the only ones that have achieved scale in this space. We have partners like IDE here and others. So there's great lessons. I think my top three things is as the USAID Global Water Coordinator mentioned, market systems development, right? That I think is the key to starting this journey of getting to scale. There's a very simple construct with market systems development. It looks at who does and who pays, right? And you start where you are in the current state, and you can look at a variety of different, I would say, issues like governance. We use core market functions, supporting market functions, rules market functions. You look at all of those different things and say, okay, where are we right now? Who's doing, who's paying? Where do we want to go? Who's doing, who's paying? And then, for all of those different areas, you can develop your work plan to kind of get you closer to that. And that's really kind of part of the whole institutionalization strategy, like getting the governments, involved, getting them to take leadership, when in places where they're not as amazing as Kitui. So that's one of the key things, I think. The other very important thing is the supply chain, right? You've got to get these products and inputs to the furthest reaches of the market. That's not always easy. So you have to really look at developing, and we're actually trying to do this in Kisumu right now, where we've SATO Pan goes to a certain level in the market, but we want to get, so there's a supplier in every ward being able to actually supply that and other inputs. So you've got to get that supply chain. That means recruiting businesses, not only just the retailers and the distributors, but also the businesses who are going to stock that product at the local level and install them. And I think there's that example of the community health promoters is amazing. Like that, a lot of them sometimes actually do get involved in the supply chain. I think that's great and that's perfect. The third is sales and marketing. But I think what we've seen is we need a very specific sales strategy, a problem-led sales strategy that really enables to reach the household with a door-to-door problem-led sales message. So it's really a behavior change message. And we've had great success. We've done it on our own and with our team in India, but we've also had a lot of success working with Whitney and Roy Partnership, who are like global sales consultants who do this for private sector, and they've actually done it for a lot of groups in the all the ones that I was met, IDE, the Synergies, like they've all used IDE. I use Whitney and Roy Partnership to kind of help them with developing their sales strategy. I don't know if Tyler's in the room, but I can give a shout out to him. And I think the last thing I'll just mention is like one of the other things that we've sort of started to see, which it's finding these non-traditional partners. So like in Ethiopia, where we've done a lot of work, it's really finding like the Ministry of Labor and Skills, who, not even in the One WASH national program, which they should be, and they will be soon, I hope. But like they're the ones, like they control the TVET structure, the Technical Vocational Training Institutes. So you get all that technical training to those local businesses. So if you want to scale, if you want to replicate, if you want to institutionalize, you got to find these non-traditional partners. And the other one under the Ministry of Labor and Skills, which is like a separate entity, is in Ethiopia, is the Entrepreneurship Development Institute, which was like a UNDP initiative that then got folded under the Ministry of Labor and Skills. So that's where we're embedding, and we're working with Whitney and Roy Partnership on this, embedding that sales training ability within these local institutions. So you got to institutionalize within the government structures or the private sector structures. A lot of it could be associations. It could be it could be different business development service providers in country. So you've got to be able to put get those skills in there so they can be replicated in a much more affordable way than might otherwise happen. So those are my things.
Thanks.
I was supposed to look at you, but I probably didn't. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks to you and the other partners. And appreciate you sharing the Whitney and Roy, the secret sauce.
Yeah, one of the secret sauces.
Yeah, great.
I get a lot of nods on that one.
Faith.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let's go to Pamela next, and then we'll come back. So, access to finance. You're with FINISH MONDIAL. You're working on commercial finance, household finance. There is a bit of debate around it about where the target should be, how we should engage in this whole system. Is it really necessary, or is it just a question of demand? And we'd love you to just speak a little bit about your experience there.
Thank you so much. I would like to start by letting you know that FINISH MONDIAL is not a FINISH program. It's actually FINISH stands for Financial Inclusion, Improved Sanitation and Health. And FINISH MONDIAL is multi-countries, and we are working in multi-countries with an intention of covering probably the whole world. And we're working in Uganda. I'm from Uganda. We're working in Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, and India. So FINISH MONDIAL has an approach called the Diamond Approach. And on the Diamond Approach, we actually emphasize the issue of the other corners of financial inclusion and entrepreneurship. That is the business side. On top, there's a household who is our client, and down the ladder, there's a government that creates the enabling environment. And what do we do with the different bits? On financial institutions, we just go straight to the financial institutions. That's the banks, the formal ones and the informal ones. Looking at Kitui, referring to our case in Kenya, Kitui has the formal and informal. Actually, most of them are very informal, just like any other village in Africa. They're so informal. But what does FINISH MONDIAL do is that you first identify the informal ones and try to make them informal by capacity building of those informal ones and making sure that they reach Tier 4 and they are registered and they become formal. But the informal ones is pitching to the management and the staff and showing them business. Where is business on the sanitation value chain? Where is that business? And I can assure you, where there is money flow, cash flow with the financial institutions, with the banks, it's very easy to catch up with you. So we have banks that we are working with in different places, and we pitch that business, and they're able to take up with their staff. Interestingly, they already have the resources. They have the funds, they have the human resource, meaning that you just add in another product, which is a sanitation and hygiene loan that fits into their daily daily business. So as you said, the question is, does it work to scale? Yes, scaling through financial institution works. It works very well. It's only that needs some of us seated here to identify, to actually crack that hard core of how best can we work with them, how can we bring them on board to see the business within the sanitation and hygiene. The business is there, I can assure you, and why I have to assure you is that I'm assured in 2023 we'll have an investment from financial institutions of about $140 million across our 6 countries in Uganda. And every 90 seconds, a toilet is constructed, a hygiene and sanitation facility is constructed using a sanitation and hygiene fund from different institutions within our FINISH MONDIAL. So it's not FINISH, it's financial inclusion, and we're talking about financial inclusion. And yes, we would like to take, that's why we have a partnership with LIXIL. We have a partnership in Uganda with UNICEF. It's growing, it's growing. We've just started last year and we are doing very well. But also in Kenya, there's that big partnership that you have seen, and FINISH MONDIAL comes in to close that loop of financial inclusion. And we're looking at the government and the household. I would like to also appreciate the development partners for making sure that there is demand. There is demand already at household level, and that is the efforts of the government and the development partners. But how about strengthening the supply side, which is the financial institution and the entrepreneurs? In FINISH MONDIAL, currently, we have also developed, we work with entrepreneurs who will actually need financial money, actually, to be able to strengthen their businesses. At the moment, we have developed a curriculum with the government. That's the partnership that we have with the Directorate of Industrial Training, that is DIT, which is in Uganda, and we're about to launch that curriculum. And within that curriculum, we'll start with the technical institution. So every other student that joins the institution and is interested in WASH will be able to tap into that. It has the business part of it, it has everything. And we have ladies, women who are already, right now they are being tested at DIT. So I'm proud that I'm here with LIXIL, I'm here with the UNICEF and Kenya that has really performed so well. And thank you so much for letting us speak. So within the FINISH MONDIAL is a brain of West Netherlands, and West is not implementing, it's just introduced that, but the different countries are implementing the FINISH MONDIAL program. It is a partnership of several others. And yes, we look at sanitation and hygiene and water, but also we are taking it to another level where we like to have the circular economy. So we are getting into, most of the toilets are safely managed, meaning that they are reusable, they are sustainable, but also we look at the costs. Every other day we are reducing the cost of one facility, but it has to be safely managed and of course going up to the ladder. So we're looking at the circular economy, that's why we are in the fecal sludge management and doing co-composting in order to sort the issue of agriculture, enhancing soils, but also on the climate issues, using the local and the natural manure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pamela. Nice. Very good. Kitui keeps coming back, so I just want to go back one more time. There's apparently quite a few public health officers, people who have joined online in similar positions you have been in, maybe a little underfunded, maybe feeling a little down. If you could give one piece of advice to them on scaling sanitation, what would you do?
Thank you so much, and I want to thank the public health officers in Kitui who are joining online. And our journey continues to painting our county blue. Our objective is about getting there by 2025. So let's keep the light going on and also encourage our CHPs who are back on board and also the unstipend. And because we're having a performance contract, each CHV is supposed to purchase and install SATO. Bearing in mind that we have 2,470 CHPs, in 1 year we'll be able to do like 98,000 pieces. That's a very big milestone, and much thanks goes to our Minister, Honorable Ruth Koki, and also our Governor, His Excellency Dr. Julius Malombe, for ensuring that we get the CHPs back so that they can help us realize the goal of painting our county blue. Remember, these CHPs were the people, the drivers to ODF. So now that they are on stipend, I'm sure we are now on the right track. Thank you so much, my dear colleagues.
Thank you, Faith. We're almost ready to close. We're almost ready to get to a few more open questions. But to Erin, stepping back a bit, looking at a whole global business now. This all started in one county that scaled up, water scarce area. There's 1,000 Kituis out there. There's different customers. There's people in flood-prone areas. How, as a company, are you addressing all these different consumer needs and segments out there as we expand?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think that one of the things that SATO is known for is the innovative products and bringing innovation, the private sector R&D. I think Anne touched on that in her presentation as well, about how do we start to put these communities and understand their challenges. So consumer-centric approach, understand what they're going through. What are those needs? What are those gaps? Daigo always refers to this as what are our problem statements? What are we designing to? And I think what has been most surprising when we came back to SIWI this year, or last year for the first time, people would walk by our booth down the hallway, and then you just see them like turn back around really slowly, because the last time anyone saw SATO, it was one pan. It was a direct pit squat pan with the flap door. And here we were now presenting this incredibly diverse portfolio that enables for squatting, Eva's favorite stool product for sitting consumers. We have, you know, the availability to do direct pits, but now also offset single pits, offset twin pits. We have a hand hygiene station. We have some exciting new products in the pipeline. This is coming from us working with our partners to get the feedback from community health volunteers, from what consumers are learning, from what the UNICEF market assessments are doing in those country offices, from the large-scale implementation from our NGO partners. That feedback coming up through each of our partners enables us to identify where there's a gap. And what SATO does and LIXIL is turn our investment and resources towards the innovation and the R&D. We then work again with the local partners in our make, sell, use model of how do we bring that locally produced product at an affordable price, at scale, in a way that we can continue to get those into communities. And John, you know, you brought up this challenge of even if we can get products sometimes into a market, whether it's through an import model, like a hub and spoke in the region, you know, we still have those challenges. And so one other role that we really see as SATO is how do we establish these partnerships, these large, effective partnerships in countries, with governments, with implementation partners, with funders, as you've heard, and actually start to bring together that constellation and see how we can align our supply chains. Each of us has a different strength. And so we as the private sector can bring innovation, we can bring products, we can bring consumer centricity. We launched recently our partner toolkit, which is around how do we empower social enterprises that want to bring SATO products? How can they leverage our SATO brand as a proud supplier of SATOs and tap into our social media networking, our activation campaigns? We're launching this week our USAID toolkit. So partners who are running large USAID projects have ready-to-go tools for proposal development, for planning, for transparency, and where your demand is. This is how we as a private sector partner can then align our supply chains, we can optimize those supply chains, and really help to play our part in not only having the products and services that are available to you, but driving demand and making sure we can get those products where they need to be. And we want to have these types of dialogues. We want to look at the case studies like Kitui. We want to hear the feedback from FINISH as you're scaling, or the country offices or large projects, and understand if there's still gaps, or understand, maybe the supply chain needs to evolve as demand does. So we really see our role on bringing those core technologies and these consumer-centric solutions for sanitation and hygiene, but working alongside each of these partners to understand how do we optimize to get those products where they need to be and sustain that behavior change.
Thanks, Erin. Anne, you're standing between us and lunch, not a great position to be in, but you've heard all this. You're leading the Safely Managed Game Plan. UNICEF is everywhere around the world. How do we, picking up on Erin's comment, how do we do more of this? How do we identify the next Kituis? And how do we scale up these types of partnerships that seem to be getting to scale more quickly than what we were talking about maybe 10 years ago or so?
No, thanks for that. Jason, just, I guess, two things. One, in the LIXIL case, this started under very interesting circumstances. We had a very clearly defined problem statement, and so we knew what we wanted to partner for. But with that said, it wasn't all cool at UNICEF that I was partnering with a multinational corporation. There's a lot of blowback, that we were going to put out all the private sector partners who were working in sanitation. And it just luckily we had a market survey that kind of showed, there was nobody we were really competing with at that time, and this was fine. But, I think the public sector has a long way to go, because we can often see the private sector either as a vendor, we can see the private sector as evil because, they're doing something to poor populations.
We're the big friendly corporate, come on.
Sorry, yeah, no, I know. And in UNICEF, we were always seeing the private sector as someone who gave us money. And so what we were doing in Kitui was none of the above, and people didn't understand it. So I think, there are some hurdles to go in terms of internal environments, but also I think having a very clear statement of what you need and what you're working on, and defining that shared value is one way to overcome this, and also develop a useful partnership for both parties. So that's one. But two, in terms of scaling, even with our country offices now, I like to reinforce that this is not a silver bullet, that just because we have great products coming from SATO, it doesn't mean that their arrival in country means all your problems are solved. There's a lot of work that has to take place to make sure that they are being dropped into an ecosystem of functioning policies and regulation and standards to make them sustainable. But I think this is a little bit of a hangover from the low capacity that we have in the sanitation sector generally, that people still sometimes see a product as the answer to their problems. And I think that's something we need to overcome, is just be clear about what needs to happen in tandem with a great product from a development sector side. So, yeah.
Thank you. And we couldn't do it alone. I mean, it takes this whole system. So thanks a lot for that. And thank you, all of you on the panelists. We really appreciate it. Fred, back to you. I don't know if we have time for more questions. Or.
Never let the audience.
I think you can sit. Huh? Oh. Yeah, you can sit. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you, Jason, for moderating that session. Very, very insightful. We understand how interesting the discussion is around PPPs, especially having looked at the success that Kitui County has achieved. We always say that it's not over until each and every house has an improved sanitation and hygiene. So we still continue to work with you. We have to respect the time given to us, and we want to actually invite you to our booth. After this session, we are available for any comments, for any clarifications. Please feel free to reach out to us. Like Eva said, we have our website, www.sato.lixil.com. And you can also subscribe to our regular newsletter where we highlight success of partnerships like the one we have with Kitui County and UNICEF. And also, please look out for Partnership for Better Living, our partnership with USAID. There's quite interesting things going on. One, I know we mentioned Madagascar, but there's also, I know our team are working on getting into more markets. Thank you, everyone, for participating. We appreciate those joining us online, despite the break, and staying online to listen to the success story. And we invite you to engage us more during this SIWI week. Thank you all, and have a great afternoon. Thanks.